So I was overwhelmed watching your film. I was a student of Jamia. I was an undergrad when the separatist happened. I was part of the movement. I am witness to the police crackdown which happened. And we know how the media portrayed us, how they called us anti-nationals and using various communal slurs and all of that. And stories like this become very important in contemporary India, where we are seeing how the state is trying to invisibilize us. Since the BJP has come to power, we have seen how they are trying to erase our existence in this country by trying almost everything to change our history and our contribution in making this nation state. So I don't know what else to say. Thank you so much for making this film, and more power to all of us who have gathered here. And I don't know if it has made any change, and but like, yeah, Inqilab Zindabad to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very powerful. Thank you for making. Could you just tell us something that maybe we come out with? What was your, besides what you're saying there?
I mean, this is first of all a self-financed film that I have shot, edited, written myself, and it's a self-financed film. So when I went in shooting this film, I didn't even know that I was making a film. I just wanted to be there and document everything, because I knew that it's going to be difficult for us to remember this later if one of us doesn't document. Because there are many other people, and honestly, they weren't even present when the students were being beaten. There was no media over there. That's what triggered me into going there every day and just being present. I started shooting it on my iPhone actually for the first 16 days, and then I borrowed a camera from a friend. And then I just never thought about the funding or anything like that, because it seemed so urgent at the time to just be able to have this footage first. And then yes, it took me 3 years to edit it, because I edited it like a more observational or journalistic film for 1 year. Because I really did not want to put my voice over, because it just seemed too daunting, and I didn't want to go there, because but those were the real questions that were troubling me, and that's why I was so angry and so emotional about this. Why am I feeling so angry when someone is saying something Islamophobic to me when I'm not even religious? So I felt like it's time to now, I have to address these things for myself to be able to process this new India,
Apart from fighting the BJP and its politics of communal polarization, Shaheen Bagh was also a feminist upsurge in a very different format. What has happened to that? What is happening to that today?
Long-term effect, I would say that now in Sampan you have this violence happening right now. And for the first time, women have been arrested in any kind of a communal riot. And that shows that the establishment is scared to death, Now they're not even stopping at that, because Shaheen Bagh has made a difference. Women have become empowered, everybody can feel it. And that is just one thing, but I do feel that it has changed the way we look at resistance, because it's supposed to be an outside thing. You go out and into the streets and you resist. But these women brought home outside. It was like a very warm and hospitable space, and they were juggling their home life and protest life, and what they did was bring resistance to everyday life. Instead of resistance being something we go on Saturday or Friday to be in this protest, they made a routine out of it, because it's an everyday battle that they're anyway fighting, and they're like, we're going to talk about it every day. So it was a big change in that sense, and there have been so many other sit-ins. They have basically brought this new model of dissent almost, where you're completely non-violent. You're talking about peace. You're asserting your patriotism in whatever way you see yourself as an Indian Muslim today. You're dressing how you like. You're staying out at night. You're doing very peaceful things. But you're resisting that invisibilization that she was talking about. We refuse to be hidden. That is what it gave us, I think. It's a good idea.
It's nice that they're saying that the
woman says that we are not stupid, we know, understand, and there's a very nice dialogue you said.
Yeah.
It's not that women are always from home and things like that.
Exactly.
And there's a very strong sense of a strong woman of this country. I mean, that we could not talk about Muslim or Hindu, but it's nice to say that there's a woman, showing their empowerment and all that.
Yeah.
But my question is, what were the men doing? How did this woman came into the front from at what stage? And because what happens now, it's mostly the men which are there, then the women will follow. But here it looks like that they had taken over from there, and
Yeah.
the men are not seen about. So how did all this happen?
That's exactly what the film is about. That's how the women started claiming the space, because I think we realized that the need of the hour is peaceful protest.
Would have come, there would have been violence.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that.
The guy with the gun gets away with it.
Yeah, so if
Man
this
says Goli Mardi gets away
and
with
it was a task, because the men, I also said in the film that they were constantly trying to reclaim that space because they're not used to being on the sideline. Saying. But it was almost such a natural way in which the women fit right into the resistance that they were doing. I mean, they were being themselves. That's why it was successful. And that's why they were able to retain and hold and sustain the protest for 100 days. Because they were not doing anything different. They were doing the same thing. They were coming there, they were chatting, they were going back. They were also talking to each other. It's just that pehle, people would be like talking to just their neighbor. Everybody came together, started talking to each other.
But it has got nothing to do with a strategy to put the woman at the front or anything like that.
I mean, this is a leaderless protest. That's the most beautiful part about it. So there is nobody organizing this. There is nobody doing anything. People are coming out because they're done. They're being pushed to the wall. They don't want
So
to be
after that, now she says something.
नहीं पर ये जो डिटेंशन बना रहे हैं सीए हो गया या मिक्सडा वगैरह what are they going to do if they don't have the papers? What will they do with the, I mean, उसका solution क्या है? या तो पेपर दे दें उनको बना के, पर करेंगे कितना डिटेंशन, क्या करेंगे? I don't know.
सिर्फ डराने का तरीका है बस इसके अंदर तो फिर क्या है
Bulldozers come
ये
here.
लोग इतना पैसे ही नहीं है गवर्नमेंट के बाद सबको डाल सके सिर्फ डराने का तरीका है उसकी की फॉल इन लाइन
लोगों को तो डालना है।
सबको नहीं डाल सकते इतना पैसा थोड़ी नहीं गवर्नमेंट के बाद कि 18 करोड़ मुसलमानों को डाल दें
इसका मेन मकसद ये था कि हम जो है वो यहाँ पे भी बैठ के सोचते हैं कि सही से बोल रहे हैं या नहीं, कोई ऐसी बात तो नहीं हो जाएगी कुछ गलत नहीं करता है मुझे। असली चीज़ वो है जब हम ये देखते हैं, मैं नौशीनी को तब से देखता हूँ,
शाहीन बाग में भी
बहुत ही ये नौशीन और बहुत लोगों ने फिल्म बनाई पर नौशीन बना दी।
That's what the memories are like for studying.
That was just my yes.
So,
Congratulations. I think it's a totally brilliant film. It's a brilliant film. It has brought out, the feminism and the strength that women have, and which has never been really shown as obvious. And especially this kind of the Muslim women who are always underrepresented and seen as suppressed, oppressed, and just out there. Just down there have come out. So many congratulations to you. I think it is something that is extremely required. And let me tell you, I'm a professor of Islamic studies. Okay, so I think it is it's a must. Okay, but what my question is to you is a little depressing. Going backwards and looking at the situation today, as I see myself in, is with these elections and with the kind of results that have come. Is telling me very loud and clearly that, the people of India do not want the Muslims. I mean, this is what I'm hearing. I don't know if I'm hearing it right. I don't know if I'm overworked and, over anxious. But I'm hearing this. And I'm a total liberal. I mean, that's besides the point. But what I'm simply saying is that, being part of the country, and being very much in it, and being being able to give, and being able to stand up for what you believe in, and this confusion that is created around, and it's I can't see a future. Can you?
I can't make art and then say that I don't have hope. The only reason I'm still making it because I have some hope I'm going, doing whatever I can in my individual capacity and taking help from many friends, trying to talk about it at least or remember it at least so that we can talk about it later. But I was talking to my grandfather, like the last conversation I had with my Nanaji, I was really furious. It was during the Shaheen Bagh movement that he passed away. So I met him and I was very pissed. I was saying that, oh, these people have done this to us and this, that, they've beaten the students, they've done this. I kept talking for like 10 minutes and then he just said one thing. He said, हर चीज़ का दौर होता है. So that's it. हर चीज़ का दौर होता है. Like, even bigger fascists and, dictators have come and gone. It's fine. We just have to stand here.
I guess, thank you. Because I
The basic stance is that the Muslim people, on one side we have Pakistan, then there's Afghanistan, then there's Bangladesh. So this is their country in the sense that you are in majority over there. The government is saying that we are doing it for the minority. So the Sikhs and the other Jains and Christians are not in, they are in problems in this kind of area. But it is the Muslims have their Pakistan. This is their place, the Afghanistan. So that is one of the reasons. No, that is one of the reasons.
That is your perspective. My perspective is in the film. There are two narratives.
No, I'm just saying the government is saying like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
ये
saying.
देश
There is.
I also feel there is a very fundamental confusion between CAA and NRC.
yes.
CAA is right in a sense. CAA is actually talking of giving citizenship. Amit Shah has said that we'll be giving citizenship to Hindus, the Buddhists, Jains. Even today, probably more than 100 or 200 people have not been given any citizenship. He was absolutely lying. In order to make people confused between CAA and NRC, NRC is the real threat.
That's right.
Tells you that you will be thrown out or you will be thrown into the detention center. CAA goes against the very grain of Indian constitution. It says that it will give citizenship to non-Muslims coming from Muslim countries.
Yes.
It will not give citizenship to people coming from Myanmar or Sri Lanka or countries like that. It will give citizenship to people coming from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, things like that. So that is against the grain of Indian constitution, but it does not directly threaten you. What threatens is the NRC.
Even the CAA, there are Muslim minorities within Muslim countries. For example, there are the Ahmadiyas who are in Pakistan and who are threatened. So why should religion come in? Why should religion be a criterion at all? It should be the oppressed and suppressed. One can understand. You cut across religion. The problem becomes that you make this a Muslim issue. And you have made every other issue, like I mentioned, a Muslim issue. You knock down temples, mosques, you take away educational institutions, you stop giving money for education. I have a whole list of things. But the point is that why should it be? It should be oppressed people. There are people in Iran, there are women who are oppressed and say they want to come to India and they happen to be Muslim. Should they change their religion or should they be given shelter? So our constitution, that is against the constitutional grain to typify anything under religious categories. That's my point.
They have nothing against oppression. They are there to oppress. The message is Muslims do not belong. That's what CAA is.
But that's it. But
And
that's
this
a
too-
wrong message.
Trigger the polarization.
Can't see anybody, but you know that we had a Mumbai Bagh while the Shaheen Bagh was happening in Delhi. We had a Mumbai Bagh, and it was a very powerful movement that lasted for more than a month.
Yes.
Maybe 2 months even. But unfortunately I can't see anybody who was there at the time. I was hoping that some would come.
Couple of things that resonate in the film. Finally, your name, the Muslimness of your name that you cannot separate. Now, I can't hear you. And then the other thing was about the indifference of friends who do not feel the same anger, who are not, reacting the same way as you are. And so, I mean, how do you, just to note, like, one of my cousins, she started she stopped calling out her husband's name in public. Because she did not want to draw attention to. So she started calling him by his initials. And she continues that now, even at home, just to get used to. There was a staff, like after 25 years of being married, start calling her husband with a different name because you don't want to draw attention. And she herself has been like downplaying her wisdom, identity and name. Not very religious, strike, blend in. We called it that. And so it was very predictable with that. The other thing was, how do you deal with this indifference of friends?
I'm still grappling with it. I feel bad every day for the friends. Like Purani Dosti, it hurts every day. But I have made so many friends who understand me for who I am now, and this is, this is more important to me. I need friends around me who can understand it, and I just honestly don't even want to be around people anymore who don't understand how difficult this time is for me. And especially when making this film, it's been a very isolating experience. Not everybody can understand because it's like everybody is busy doing things, and I'm just reliving this trauma again and again. I'm trying to figure out how to say it in the least number of words, how to make it pleasant, how to make the music nice, how to make the visual beautiful, how to make it impactful. I'm constantly grappling with this voiceover thing also, right? Where I'm thinking about why is it hurting me so much? Why is it hurting me? So it's very difficult to think about these things. So it has been difficult, but I feel like we need to also simplify it at some time and set a simple goal that we just have to keep standing. That's it.
So most of my generation, I'm like Gen Z, we are fucked, but what happens is most of us, we are in this cesspool of misinformation, and documentaries like this tell us what is actually happening. So aside from this, what do you think should be done for my generation and most generations who are in this loop of misinformation?
It's really important to go out and have real life exchanges, interactions, like hang out in person, go out to events, go out to film screenings, go and see what's happening, meet people. And that, you can't be, even for me, it's like sometimes it becomes an echo chamber because all my friends now agree with me, so then that's also so you have to occasionally go out and hang with different kind of people, I think. And if you want to tell stories, then you have to just tell your own story. That's the best way to do that. Yeah.
So it's a hats off that normally we feel safe among our peer group, so we talk about certain topics, but you made a movie out of it. So it's a kind of hats off, and especially being a Muslim woman, but making something related to this topic, right? So that was very emotional to me. At the same time, I want to understand what kind of researches you have gone through.
What kind of?
Researches you have done, and because you have experienced this, right? And just to avoid some emotional biases while making that movie, what kind of hurdles, those biases you have tried to avoid? Just want to understand a bit.
I would share my rough cuts with 4 or 5 people, not more, but they were completely in different fields and from different backgrounds, different age groups and things like that, and I would take feedback. Even my music director, so he lives in Bombay, he has a completely different upbringing, so we were constantly discussing every scene, every shot. So his observations were actually very important for me to understand that how varied people look at this entire issue, or how people look at this community and everything like that. So by having conversations with different people, that was my main research, because I was trying to understand, I was constantly trying to get out of my head and get out of this anger that I'm in, and try to address things in a simple way, but after understanding that what is exactly the perception from all sides.
And choose the beginning of the film that it up to me. The reason which the days I knew were in college, they were entirely different. So I just want to know, what were the conversations that you had as friends, or was this issue of insecurity or unsafety ever put out, or was it like never still pick up?
So for me, Jamia, I went to LSR in Delhi University before Jamia. So Jamia was like a rebirth for me, where I could kind of see that there are so many people like me who are dealing with this kind of identity problem, where they're like coming from a certain kind of background. But here we were like, so Jamia is such a diverse place. That's the best thing about it, not the courses or that anything else. How diverse it is the main thing about it. That's why people go there. That's why it's so prestigious.
And
So for us, like even during our time in FTI, there were protests going on. So we were aware of all of this. We were discussing things, but I think it was still early. I mean, it was when Kejriwal came, so there was like a hopeful period also during that time. So it was, we were also deeply political, but it wasn't, we weren't feeling so cornered yet. So it wasn't, that defensive reaction wasn't coming, or that hurt was still not realized at that time. It's only after I graduated, and I think maybe 5 years, it has been difficult to find a house and all of the things that I'm talking about. But you still try to fight it. You're like, no, this one odd person who's being a little Islamophobic. Not everybody is like that. So then those experiences then just like kept happening and so on. And now we are in this stage where we are. So yeah, I think it was very different in the sense that I wanted to work in Bollywood. I wanted to do like wildlife photography. I wanted to do all these other things, and now I'm like making political films. It's not the best. I mean, like I also want to do other things with my life, but I feel responsible. I want to respond to this. So I'm going to do it, but we could be occupying ourselves with like other things. We could be like actually concerned about the environment. Like, we're stuck in all this only, so that's a little bit disappointing, but yeah. It's very different now.
What do you think about the difference in the political consciousness of the people or of the whole phase of NRCCA protests during that time and after the protests, like current times right now? Do you find there has been any change in the political consciousness of the people?
I mean, because we had this whole movement and then COVID happened and it was like a big lull in that sense, it's very difficult to remember even COVID properly. Like, it all feels like one long day because every day was the same and it was just so difficult. But I do feel that there are many people who have become aware because of attending protests even for a single day. If you go there once, the energy is so infectious, you know that something big is happening and this is a critical time in our country. So anybody who's experienced any of these protests definitely has like a butterfly effect. People and tell their friends, people make films, people have podcasts, people talk about it. So definitely I feel that it's only onwards and upwards from here. We just have to keep talking about it.
Yeah. And I do feel like a lot of people ask what is the solution to this, because clearly the fascist forces have been rising. I mean, you pointed out the anti-fascist the whole anti-fascist movement that was going around during NRC protest. And right now a lot of people think that it has slowed down, but then you do think that Bajpa has literally RSS backing, a whole cadre backing it up.
Resistance comes in waves. You can't resist.
Yeah, but then there's the thing, right? How many protests do you think happen in Mumbai?
But I think that resistance has morphed into different ways.
Most of the protests happen in Azad Maidan in some corner, where 5 people are giving speeches.
So I'm not that aware, but I understand your question.
I think the only solution right now is for the youth, for everyone to step down on the streets and to protest and to organize more and more people against these forces. It might be invisible right now, but it is literally happening in everything. You talked about censorship, right? It is seeping into all, in everything, in education, in all sectors, in every field that is right now there. Yeah. So I think it is very important to realize this and to not really feel hopeless, but to really, work on it and to organize our people against these things.
It is really important to step down on the streets and to join organizations that are doing revolutionary work, that are protesting day and night, that are doing revolutionary work day and night.
Yeah.
After the few days ago result, I think the fact that people are not on the street is shocking in itself, because they're accepting that this was a real election. This was like the Philippines, where one dictator wins by 98%. That's it, election over. And we're believing it.
Yeah.
Either we're believing it or we're not. We don't think we have enough strength to come out.
Frightened to speak up.
1,500 rupees or 7,000 rupees were given to women in bank accounts. And it created, I believe, because yesterday I was at Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai's book launch, and it was said that, loads of people voted. The women voters came out because they got the benefits, and they thought that it was a very good thing because, it's helping livelihood. But isn't it it is a legitimizing something that is wrong, legitimizing a kind of a bribery for a vote. See? So, this is, I think, is it's a legal issue. That should you be paying people to vote for you? Is it a permissible act? The members of parliament are being bought and sold, openly. You put them in trucks and buses and take them from. So what is this happening? This is, and there's no one on the streets and no one talking about it.
In the chat,
Just unlimited thanks for this amazing film.
Thank you.
I wanted to comment about no reactions, and then a question to you. It's been really interesting. So it's been interesting to read Urdu news about the elections. And so Iran Kun decided. So surprising results. So it's interesting that there is some outspokenness, but where's the activity? Yeah. I was like, but I wanted to ask if, because at this time I was sadly in the US. I had to go back right before all this, and so the end of the film kind of jumps from filmmaking coming in, but it jumps from the elections to COVID. With this being a leaderless movement, I would love to hear, because this was exactly the kinds of things that I couldn't learn about and couldn't see. Everything shut. What was happening with the circles of communication? What was going on with, obviously there's already organizing happening across whatever channels, but during those weeks, just following the election and then going into COVID, and there's so much just anxiety and confusion about what's happening, and then the next morning everything is bulldozed away.
Yeah.
And if you could share a little bit about what was going on in those dark days.
There were lots of WhatsApp groups and such that were formed, and they were used to track people down, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and it was very scary because we were all a community of like filmmakers, photographers, protesters. Everybody was together, and suddenly some people were being called for interrogation and other things were happening. So it was a terrible time. We didn't know if the person we'd been communicating with for 100 days was maybe somebody who was not a protester from outside somewhere. So it was a very difficult and weird time, and we just had to sit tight. And communication was infiltrated, so it was not safe anymore.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Can you shed more light on the issue that after the riots happened, especially in the Delhi, like the movement of Shaheen Bagh, it was more of a collective movement, a people's movement. What happened after the riots? That was there a communal divide straight away, and now, and what is happening now? Because what I heard that there are strict divides now in Delhi, like between the two communities. So what was its impact on the protest also?
The protest was halted because there was section 144, which is a curfew and you can't step out, and everything was bulldozed and taken away. And after that, communal divide. See, Delhi is a very densely populated. Even Shaheen Bagh or Northeast Delhi, all these are very densely populated, and people lived in mixed communities there. But there'll be like one row where there's only certain community, then another row there'll be somebody else. Where it's like their relatives would buy the next house, ऐसे करके. So it's fairly mixed and it's also tightly packed together. So definitely after the riots, I would say there was a lot of migration. Like a lot of people moved back to Jamia Nagar because that's where they felt it was still safer than Northeast Delhi. So in that sense, there was again an uprooting and movement of this community. Once again, I mean, it has been a periodical thing. I mean, our family histories are dotted with so much migration because of like so many communal issues that we have experienced. So yeah, all of that happened all over again, and there was nothing we could do about it because we are up against something that is so powerful and so rich. So we have to make do.
You all know that after this movement, the next movement was the farmers' movement.
Yes.
They were inspired by Shaheen Bagh. In fact, they had come to Shaheen Bagh also. They'd done a langar.
Yeah.
I wish you'd say the film. A little bit, yeah. But yeah, it was also very, I mean, if Shaheen Bagh hadn't happened, I don't think the farmers would have taken the same shape. Because they realized that just sitting down and not moving is a form of amazing protest, a powerful protest. They did that for almost a year and a half.
Yeah, there.
This movie is thematically, plot-wise, and message-wise also very strong. And when you make such movies, it's a kind of journey, and you don't end up being the same person again.
Yeah.
So how it changed you personally while the journey of making this movie?
I wish I could unknow some of the things that now it's very difficult for me to be like my chirpy old self, but I enjoy my present self also. It has been like I had to break myself completely down and make a new person. So it was hella painful. Amongst many other things, I do feel that this is the work that I want to do. I want to make such films. I want to talk about these things. I want to continue to use my voice to hopefully, archive at least whatever is happening for the future generations. And even if we don't have space right now, we are very fortunate that we have community in India. Sir has been showing films here for so many years, and there are so many such people who have helped me show somewhere at least. Honestly, I've had more screenings outside of India than inside, so it's not easy to show this film here also. And for people to come out also, it's a big deal. And hopefully we'll continue to do even small acts of resistance, add up in the long run. And it is like lambi ladai type scene. So and keep making small films, keep showing, keep watching, keep meeting people, keep talking and do it.
It takes us back to the conversation we were having about what were the men doing at the time. And around 2019, 2020, I was working with the e-waste dismantlers in the Northeast Delhi, which is Mustafabad and Silapur. And I was seeing the escalation happen. Then I would be in their houses because I had to work with them, understanding their occupation and their space. And eventually, after a few meetings, I would not see the dadis or this, and I'd be like, what's happening? And they're like, wo to ja rahe. It's like a slow thing I'm observing. And I'm like, aap kyun nahi ja rahe ho? Sir, हम जाएंगे 4 बजे के बाद, अभी पहले अपना daily wages कर लेते हैं, फिर जाएंगे. So that was their way of supporting. Yeah, it was very organized in the sense that घर पे बात हो रखी है, खाना कब आने वाला है, कौन जा रहे हैं. And after some time, all our meetings were at Shaheen Bagh. We were all at Shaheen Bagh. We were all just like talking.
That's the best part.
Yeah, and I think that is what kind of made the whole protest what it did.
Yeah.
It was that everybody was part of it.
Yeah.
And the women were leading.
I mean, it was cool to be at a protest.
Which
was. Not the nerd.
They were like, meeting छोड़ो आप NRC का CA का sticker पहन के चलो भी हमारे साथ. I said, yeah, like leave everything. We should just be there. Yeah. So that's the role they had to play, which was to back off.
Yeah.
And they did it very proudly. They were just like, we will do it, we'll on and then we join. Yeah.
But there were men.
There were men.
There were men.
You were
Not just me, but there were many.
Serving chai.
No, but he was there.
He's also serving chai.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were men serving chai.
Yeah, no, he was there and he was reciting poetry also. And they should the same thing what we did.
Their thoughts.
Singing a song.
observation which is off the cuff, a little away from Shaheen Bagh, and that is, there is a narrative that, what leads up to something and what comes down from somewhere. So the premise, there's a premise, and, that is, religion has been made the target. It is the target premise, and
It's easy to do that because people get riled up very easily.
no, but it has been used, to as a vote bank collector. It has been used to destroy credibility of people. It has been used to create hate. It has been used to divide and rule. So I think this, this entire narrative, even about Shaheen Bagh CAA, and the rest of it that is going step by step, revolves around that. So is there any way in which that narrative could be, that's been my, concern. How do we shift that narrative? Because if there is another parallel narrative which is equally powerful, that is created, because secularism, has become a dirty word. I mean, nobody wants to hear it. And, pluralism, people talk about, I've done a book on it. But the point remains that the crux of, this winning streak that has come, and the oppression and suppression, and I'm not saying the Muslims are not to blame, please. All over the world, they are to blame very strongly. So I don't condone that. But what I'm simply saying is that when it is made into a narrative of this kind, in a country like ours, which has this huge legacy of, existence, of pluralism, of meeting and learning and exchanging and synthesis and syncretism, as I have learned from my little career in history, this has been attacked. And this is primarily something I'm trying to figure out in my mind. And I thought, as you as a filmmaker, if you think about something of that kind, because I'm thinking of something, how does one create a parallel narrative to shift, to move out of this fear, that we seem to have entangled ourselves in. That's it.
Yes. I wanted to say, you said something about Muslims are to blame and things like that. There is an identity, there are problems around, and it's not problems around identities of people with identities who are being oppressed for their identity. But above all this, we can see worldwide that there is a crisis, an economic crisis, because of which, like in the Second World War and before in the 20th century, the Jews were targeted. Now the Muslims are targeted. They are targeted worldwide. You can see what has happened to the whole of all these countries. It's not because they are bad people. It's because that's capitalism and imperialism and so acting on capturing their resources and having this hate politics, where people will start hating each other and not look to the real problems of their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is happening in India, and this whole question of making refugees out of people. So it's a worldwide phenomenon.
You're right.
Yeah. So you must breaking the isolation is understanding the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I feel that you have to know that
that's why a women-led protest becomes that much more important, because we have, somebody was saying just now that if it was led by men, then it would not have maybe sustained as much or not have been so peaceful. So we are also under the same kind of pressure where we are, being pushed to prove our identity and all of these things, but we have to make sure that we respond in the right way, we respond in a peaceful way. That is why the women's protest becomes...
I would like to disagree on this, that the question of peaceful struggle and otherwise is a matter of tactics.
Not necessarily always.
There are people who genuinely I have a difference on that, because people think that Palestinians shouldn't have anything but peaceful protests, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
So I think these things are a matter of tactics, and tactics have been applied very thoughtfully in this period of this struggle against NRC and
see, more importantly, NRC, and I feel that discussion on NRC is going to cover everyone. Yeah. NRC is not going to be just about Muslims. Everyone is going to have to produce papers. People who are going to get citizenship are those who are oppressed in other countries. It doesn't say those who are oppressed. So it's a bit you need to read the documents to actually understand. There's a huge thing to put everyone in fear.
Maybe I will like
That is the word.
I would like to add the fact that how we will get out. The answer lies in the movement like Shaheen Bagh. Like we need popular movement, like mentioning of capitalism, and we need anti-capitalist struggles, and we need organizations out of it that will organize people on their issues. And I think only this way we will be out, because we can't expect from the political parties which are here now.
Well, in your documentary, like how the political parties are trying to stay away or use it as a tactic, right? Well highlighted. If we keep on voting for bourgeois politicians, in the sense that a Congress or someone else will come and take up our rights, so that's not going to be. It's going to be men with just in power.
You sound like the Congress is about to come to power.
I was very cool.
That's fine. They have been destroyed.
Thank you so much, everybody.